Good morning, Black America. Grand Rising, beloved. I'm Crypto Stock Markets, and I'm here to turn digital sense into generational sense. Now let's unpack it. The conversation around Bitcoin just changed. Over the past few weeks, the conversation around Bitcoin in Washington has started shifting. Now, if you watched the show yesterday, we talked about how Kraken gained access to the Federal Reserve payment rails, connecting a crypto exchange to the same infrastructures banks use. That was a big infrastructure signal because for years, crypto companies had to go through banks first. If you wanted to move money from the crypto world into the traditional system, it had to pass through a banking partner. But when a crypto company connects directly to those rails, that tells you something. It tells you the system is no longer pretending crypto is temporary. It's figuring out how to plug it in. And at the same time that infrastructure shift is happening, lawmakers in Washington are starting to talk about the next layer, how Bitcoin actually functions inside the economy. One of the people pushing that conversation is Senator Cynthia Lummis. She recently told CNBC that lawmakers are exploring ways to make Bitcoin easier to use as a payment system. Right now, there's a problem. Every time someone spends Bitcoin in the United States, the IRS technically treats that as a taxable event. So if Bitcoin increased in value since you bought it, spending it could trigger capital gains taxes. Think about how complicated that makes normal spending. Imagine buying coffee with Bitcoin and having to calculate the tax difference from when you originally purchased it. That rule alone has kept Bitcoin from being widely used for everyday transactions. But lawmakers are now discussing whether small Bitcoin transactions should be exempt from capital gains taxes. If that rule changes, something important happens. Bitcoin suddenly becomes easier to use in the real world, not just in an investment, but as a payment network. Now, that doesn't mean everybody starts paying their rent in Bitcoin tomorrow, but it does mean the conversation has shifted. The debate used to be whether crypto should exist at all. Now the debate is how crypto integrates into the financial system, and that's a completely different conversation. For years, the debate was whether crypto would survive. Now the debate is how it fits into the system. When the conversation changes like that, it usually means the technology has already won its place at the table, and the system always leaves clues. Because while Washington is talking about Bitcoin payments, another shift is happening quietly in global financial system. And this one involves how countries store their wealth. Now watch this part closely. The money system is quietly repositioning according to data from the World Gold Council. Central banks around the world have been buying gold at some of the fastest rates seen in decades. Countries like China, Russia, India, Poland, Singapore, and several others have been steadily increasing their gold reserves. Now, why would central banks suddenly start stacking gold again? The answer is simple. Gold carries no counterpart, risky. It doesn't depend on another country's promise. It can't be printed. It can't be diluted by a policy decision. It just exists. At the same time, U.S. debt continues to grow. The United States is adding roughly $1 trillion in debt around every 100 days. Interest payments alone are approaching $1 trillion per year. That doesn't mean the dollar disappears tomorrow, but it does mean countries are thinking carefully about how they store their reserves. Some are holding dollars. Some are increasing gold, and increasingly, people inside financial institutions are also discussing digital assets as part of the long-term system. Now, here's another way to understand what's happening. Think about the difference between the old money system and the new one. In the old system, banks control the rails. You open a bank account, the bank approves your transaction, your payment clears through their network, everything flows through the bank. But crypto flipped that model. With Bitcoin, the network moves first. Transactions happen on the blockchain and the banks figure out how to connect afterward. That's why something like Kraken connecting to the Federal Reserve payment system matters, because now you're seeing the old financial rails starting to connect with the new digital rails, not replacing the system overnight, but integrating with it. Old rails, new rails, banks, blockchains, all starting to overlap, and that's usually how big financial transitions happen. Quietly at first, then all at once. When central banks start stacking gold, when lawmakers start rewriting crypto rules, and when the banking rails start connecting to blockchain networks, That usually means the money system is repositioning. The system always leaves clues. I tell you this all the times, guys. 3 things I'm watching right now. First, digital asset policy in Washington. If lawmakers remove tax barriers around Bitcoin payments, that could accelerate real world usage. Second, central bank reserve behavior. When countries increase gold holdings, it usually means they're thinking about long-term financial stability. And third, institutional positioning in crypto markets. Because once regulations become clear, institutions tend to move quickly. And when big money moves, market usually follows.